Hi there, my name is FahadMian. In this video, I'll add an addendum to part 2 of this series where I showed how science is a belief system. In the series introduction, I said that I would explore concepts of God, truth, and reality in part 2, but I forgot to do that. I think the topic deserves an entire video of its own, so here we are. I'll add a law to that as well. God in relation to law. If you haven't already seen the series introduction or the previous parts, links will be in the description. The basic way this works is by looking at the principles of objective truth, objective reality, and the basic core principles of what we know or think to be of God as well. Now, in a lot of the common law and natural law discussions that I've been having with people, they assert or show a triangle of authority. And the top of the triangle has God on there as the ultimate authority, as our creator. Now, I know from experience, talking to a wide range of people, that some will have an adverse reaction to the idea that God is an authority over them, atheists especially, and the common law and natural law angle tends to lean on the Christian Bible as well. So I wanted to approach this idea in a way that need not exclude or make atheists and Muslims and other denominations feel excluded from getting their heads around this particular idea. So what we do is in reference to video part 2, especially where I showed how science was a belief system and showed how science doesn't actually tell us what is objectively true and what is objective reality. Yeah. So the objective truth, or the whole and complete truth, is really only something that can be contained or grasped by someone or something that knows everything. So you need to know the truth of a situation, or the truth of every situation, and the fiction of every situation, or the lies and deception of every situation as well, or the interpretation of every situation, in order to mark a distinction between what is true and what is not true. And the only concept that I'm aware of, or the only principle or the only ideal that I'm aware of, apart from the objective truth, that can contain this is the idea of God. So the idea of a general monotheistic singular God that created and knows and rules over everything. One of the fundamental principles or properties of that God is that it's omniscient. It knows everything. So in order for something to be objectively true or know the objective truth, it has to know everything, and that is God. So here we can merge the concepts of God and objective truth to say that a property of God is that God is the objective truth, or at the very least knows what the objective truth is. We can also overlap this with the concept of objective reality. Again, that isn't something that from the boundaries of science that we can actually ever really wrap our heads around. Also from the perspective of regular living human beings, the mainstream, objective reality isn't actually something of a graspable or containable concept. The only thing that can exemplify the concept of objective reality is something that is everything, or something that knows everything. And again, with one of the fundamental well-known properties of God being omnipresence, or being everywhere, or being everything, we can also merge the idea of God with objective reality as well. Now, this doesn't mean you have to believe in God. It just means that we can try to make the word God or the reference to God somewhat interchangeable with the word truth or reality. Now, as it relates to common law and natural law, we can also put the principles of truth and reality, what is, or what actually happened, up there at the top. So this is what it looks like with God being an authority over the people and family and religion, and we, the people as a nation, with voluntary associations underneath, which include the government down there as well. Although it seems as though people have been slowly eroding the idea of God and putting science and the government somewhere at the top in terms of science and the government being some sort of authority figure over the other things, whereas that hierarchy of authority is essentially just a assumption or an illusion. It's really should be this way here with God, and I'm going to say the truth and reality and natural law at the top, that guides yourself, your family, your church, and you as a people of a nation. So I'm going to walk on some fairly shaky ground here and use our correct and incorrect separated logic idea from the previous videos to converge two ideas that most people would avoid. And that is, do we make a change to the Quran or do we not make a change to the Quran? And those two ideas are normally separated, but what we're going to do is use our broken logic strip to make the logic make the breaking to break the logic in a reasonable, rational way that reveals something more. So rather than having those two ideas conflicted, we're going to make them work. And the way that I'm going to do it is by choosing in my head, and I'll show you what it reads out like when you do it in your head. What happens when we replace the word God in the Quran with the word truth. Here's a Word document that I produced earlier where I've taken various chapters from the Quran, Surah chapter 9, and I've replaced the words Allah or God with the word truth. And I've replaced all references to God being he or him with just it, just to minimize confusion with the idea of gendering the word truth. What this does, for me anyway, it changes the way we think about various words that are in the Qurans. For example, the term polytheist then becomes those who believe that the truth comes from multiple sources or multiple external sources. As I explained in the previous video, the general idea or the general premise of where I stand is to be comfortable in one's own intuitive ability to discern the difference between deception and something genuine, or the truth and an untruth. So you need not necessarily know the truth in order to establish what is an untruth or what is deception. And if you turn your back to such untruths or deception, then you align yourself with the idea of the truth, even if you stand on the unknown. And that is I think something that's useful for a lot of people in this particular modern era, especially with so much information flying around and us not being able to know exactly what is true or untrue, since propaganda seems to merge those two concepts and then scribble a line in between or delete a line in between to merge both truth and untruth. And I understand that's kind of what we're doing now, but we're doing it with the cognition and the awareness that we're doing it in order to see through deception. It also changes the context of the word disbeliever to those who refuse to believe the truth, even if that includes their own internal truth, i.e. People with cognitive dissonance. And the term idolaters ends up in modern context referring to those who think that the truth comes from some talking head celebrity or some talking head news personality that's on TV. So here we go. This is a large chunk of Surah chapter 9, and it reads, after I've amended it, it reads, "This is a declaration of disassociation from truth and its messenger to those with whom you had made a treaty among the polytheists." So it's creating a distinction between the truth and whoever delivers the truth and those who get their truth from multiple external sources and don't sort of have their own internal belief or faith that they can discern the difference between what is or isn't truth. "So travel freely, O disbelievers, throughout the land during 4 months, but know that you cannot cause failure to truth, and that truth will disgrace the disbelievers." Just for the purpose of providing original historical context, this chapter of the Quran refers to peace treaties and agreements made between warring factions during wartime. So when it talks about 4 months, it's talking about a period of grace where people can go to pilgrimage and observe their religious practices without engaging in war. I'll continue. "And it is an announcement from truth and its messenger to the people on the day of the greater pilgrimage that truth is disassociated from the disbelievers, and so is its messenger. So if you repent, that is best for you. But if you turn away, then know that you will not cause failure to truth, and give tidings to those who disbelieve of a painful punishment. Accepted or excluded are those with whom you made a treaty among the polytheists, and then they have not been deficient towards you in anything or supported anyone against you. So complete for them their treaty until their term has ended. Indeed, truth loves the righteous. And when the sacred months have passed, then kill the polytheists wherever you find them, and capture them and besiege them and sit in wait for them at every place of ambush. But if they should repent, establish prayer, and give zakah, that's another type of prayer, I think, then let them go on their way. Indeed, truth is forgiving and merciful. And if any one of the polytheists seeks your protection, then grant him protection, so that he may hear the words of truth. Then deliver him to his place of safety. That is because they are a people who do not know. How can there be for the polytheists a treaty in the sight of truth and with its messenger, except for those with whom you made a treaty, while if they gain dominance over you? They do not observe concerning you any pact of kinship or covenant of protection. They satisfy you with their mouths, but their hearts refuse, and most of them are defiantly disobedient. So that I think it's talking about lip service, where people say that they agree with you, but then their actions don't actually observe the idea that they agree with you. So they give you this false impression of safety and trust when they're really just kind of faking it and lying to themselves. They have exchanged the signs of truth for a small price and averted people from its way. Indeed, it was evil that they were doing. Will you not fight a people who violated their oaths and planned to exile the messenger and initiated hostilities against you? Do you fear them? It is truth you should fear if you are believers. And I think that what that's saying is that you should be very careful about the dangers that are present if you don't observe the truth, or you don't distinguish between truth and deception. So if you roll around if you're not careful with the truth, then it'll bite you. It'll come back and bite you. I think that's what it's saying. Fight them. Truth will punish them at your hands and humiliate them and help you against them and heal the hearts of a believing people. So that's in reference to community. And I think from my own personal journey in life, especially in the modern era, I think humiliating people with memes, I think, is quite a valid thing to do. I've got a whole nother video on the philosophy of memes and trolling. If you want to watch that, it ties in quite nice with the idea that I'm presenting here. And it will remove the anger of their hearts. Truth redeems Truth redeems whomever it wills. Truth is knowledgeable and wise. O you who believe, do not ally yourselves with your parents and your siblings if they prefer disbelief to belief. Whoever of you allies himself with them, these are the wrongdoers. And I think many of us can relate to that in terms of parents and siblings and family and friends who won't see the truth, or they won't see the deception, and they embrace deception for some reason. They're kind of like they're fooling themselves. Say, if your parents and your children and your siblings and your spouses and your relatives and the wealth you have acquired and a business you worry about and the homes you love are more dear to you than truth and its messenger and the struggle in its cause, then wait until truth executes its judgment. Truth does not guide the sinful people. They want to extinguish truth's light from their mouths, but truth refuses except to complete its light, even though the disbelievers dislike it. And this ties in with the idea of light seekers and exposing the darkness of deception to light. There's a whole sort of new age or some sort of spiritual ideal that people keep talking about truth seekers and light seekers and those who illuminate deception to reveal truths. So I think that ties in with that as well. It is truth who sent its messenger with the guidance and the religion of truth in order to make it prevail over other religions, even though the idolaters dislike it. And here, this is my interpretation. I don't think it's necessarily talking about all other religions. I think it's talking about religions that don't bind itself in the same manner to upholding the idea of God as truth and ultimate reality, and where our law stems from, and that law being based on some simple principles like don't do harm to other people, don't take the rights of other people away, do good if you can do good. If you can't do good, then look into yourself for some greater meaning, some greater purpose, and in trying to help other people, you can in turn be provided with help yourself. It's like a self-revolving kind of pay it forward system. But that's my take on how to merge the concepts, converge the concept of God, truth, reality, and law in order to see past the conflicted sort of deception that we see with a lot of religious takes that are out there. And it certainly, this isn't to minimize one religion over another religion, but rather to uphold the principles of the truth above everything else. And if it helps people to align the truth with the idea of God and reality and law, I think this makes for a much more powerful way to grasp these concepts moving forward, especially out of the deception that we seem to have our feet sort of stuck in, especially over the last couple of years, last 2-3 years, it's become very apparent. So I would appreciate any sort of commentary or feedback on this from people who may have their own take on it, or people who have applied this same type of relative twist to the language in the Quran or the Bible or anywhere else to reveal some greater context. And honestly, I don't think this invalidates the Quran in any sort of way, even if we are modifying some of the language for our own greater grasp of what it's trying to say and to grab some greater meaning from it. If anything, I think this validates the Quran even further. The family members that I've approached with this concept or with this idea of merging Allah with truth, and seeing in particular this chapter in this manner, they end up saying that I'm more of a Muslim than most Muslims are, even though I've told them specifically that I don't consider myself to be a Muslim, and they tell me not to say that. And my position on this, or my journey, to this point, hasn't come from being informed by religion. I've never read the entire Quran. I've never read the Bible. I've never read any complete religious scripture. I've only been referenced this by people who point to a small section of this chapter as being proof that Islam is a religion of violence and wants to kill everyone. But clearly we can see with the context around that one particular line that says, kill all the polytheists. By seeing the context around all that, I think we can see quite apparently that it accepts polytheists as long as they don't go around stabbing you in the back with greater intention and greater action. So these, I'd like to know how other people feel about this, because I think it allows for more people to be included in the entire common law and natural law debate or discussion. Not a debate, it's a discussion, to gain a greater amount of knowledge about what's actually going on in the world around us. So I hope that helps. Thank you, and love and everything to everyone from me to you. Thanks.